A man named D.B. Cooper who hijacked Northwest Orient Flight 305 out of Portland, Oregon, demanded and received ransom money upon landing in Seattle, then parachuted into the woods and was never found again. You are watching News Stories. There has been a lot of unsolved mysteries in US history, but this one is something very interesting. On the afternoon of November 24, 1971, a nondescript man calling himself Dan Cooper approached the counter of Northwest Orient Airlines in Portland, Oregon. He used to buy a one-way ticket on Flight 305 of $20 bound for Seattle, Washington. Thus began one of the great unsolved mysteries in Federal Bureau of Investigation history. Dan Cooper was a quiet man who appeared to be in his mid-40s, about 6 feet tall, wearing a business suit with a black tie and white shirt. He gave his name as Dan Cooper, which later turned out to be fake. At time there were no restrictions of identity verification and luggage checking in domestic flights in America. Boeing 727 had to reach Seattle from Portland in just 45 minutes. He entered the plane along with 36 passengers and 6 crew members. Cooper made himself comfortable in the middle of the last row seats on the right side of the cabin. He ordered the drink and had a smoke because this was the 70s. Once the flight was clear for the departure, Cooper turned around and handed an envelope to flight attendant Florence Schaffner. Inside that envelope there was a note in handwritten message stating, "I have a bomb here and I would like you to sit by me." Then flight attendant sat by him and then he opened the briefcase he had, which contained numerous wires, 8 red sticks of dynamite and a battery. Cooper then said, "I want $200,000 by 5 p.m. in cash, put it in a knapsack. I want 4 parachutes, 2 back parachutes and 2 front parachutes. I want a fuel truck ready to refuel the aircraft once it landed in Seattle." After telling these 3 demands, Cooper said, "If you made any mistake in fulfilling these demands, I will blast it." Then flight attendant Florence Schaffner went to cockpit. A cockpit is the area usually near the front of an aircraft from which a pilot controls the aircraft. Then Florence explained everything to captain of the aircraft. Another air hostess whose name was Tina McClough had a intercom, went and sat by Dan Cooper. The captain of the aircraft, William A. Scott, contacted Seattle Tacoma Airport Air Traffic Control, which informed local and federal authorities. The 36 other passengers were told that their arrival in Seattle would be delayed because of a minor mechanical difficulty. Local authorities and FBI decided to fulfill all the demands of the hijacker because authorities knew that Dan Cooper won't run away so far from them. Plane took off at 3 p.m. and had to land at Seattle at 3:45 p.m. But on 5:45 p.m., more than 2 hours past its schedule of arrival, flight finally touched down in Seattle. During that, authorities collected 10,000 notes of $20 and their serial number were noted, and parachutes were arranged from near skydiving club. After flight landed, both parachutes and money handed over to McClough and plane was refueled as well. After getting ransom money and pairs of parachutes, Cooper allowed to disboard 36 passengers and 2 crew members, many of whom not yet realized that flight had been hijacked. With the ransom money and only 4 crew members left on the board, Cooper told McClough to inform the captain that he wanted him to fly to Mexico City. He wanted to fly with landing gears are down, flaps to remain open at 15 degrees and below 10,000 feet. But flight couldn't have gone directly to Mexico because of fuel, so pilot gave two options to Cooper, Reno and Phoenix for refueling. Cooper agreed on Reno. On the other side, local and federal authorities were working on it, and two fighter jets were sent after the aircraft. The plane was heading towards Reno, Nevada. Then Cooper told McClough to head to cockpit, where two pilots and one flight attendant was already there. Cooper sent her in cockpit because he wasn't wanted to being disturbed. The last time McClough saw the Cooper as he was standing in the middle and preparing for the jump. McClough was in the cockpit with rest of the crew and locked the cockpit door behind her, and 3 hours later the flight safely landed in Reno. Once the flight came to a stop and crew came out, there was no sign of Cooper. Somewhere between Seattle and Reno, a little after 8 p.m., the hijacker did the incredible. He jumped out of the back of the plane using stairs with a parachute and the ransom money. Cooper had disappeared into the night, and his ultimate fate remains a mystery to this day. Then the FBI agents converged upon the aircraft, only to discover evidence which he left behind. They got a black clip of tie, 8 cigarette butts, and 1 pair of parachute. Then FBI conducted interviews from the people who were on the board and asked them about his appearance, how he looks like. With the help of the description given by the people, FBI produced the first of his several sketches. First, FBI had to find that when Cooper jumped from plane, none of the crew members witnessed Cooper jumping from plane, nor the fighter jets who escorted the flight. It wasn't surprising as it was middle of the night. Last communication between crew and Cooper was at 8:05 p.m. when crew called Cooper to ask him whether Cooper needs some help, but he declined that. The FBI wanted to know that where he had jumped from plane between Seattle and Reno. Through flight recorder, they got to know that staircase at the back of the plane was opened at 8:10 p.m. So they determined the specific area and approximate time of the jump. The authorities estimated the most probable location of 40 km north of Portland. The FBI mounted search operation used helicopter, plane and ground routes. It was area of forest and covered with mountains. The search was more difficult because of low temperature and inclement weather conditions, which persisted for days. Despite their best efforts, authorities couldn't able to find a single trace of Cooper. FBI turned their attention to $200,000 ransom. The money was collected from Seattle First National Bank. Serial number of the money which had given to Cooper was already documented and then published in newspaper to get help from journal public, and reward was being offered to journal public in case if some give trace of Cooper, but nothing happened. Then a decade later, in early 1980s, investigators received a break when a boy found a package containing of $5,800 while having fun with the family on the beach. The money was buried along the Columbian River. There was a beach named Tina Bar, which was north of Portland and some 20 miles, approximately 30 kilometers from Ariel. The serial numbers of the money, all of which were in $20 bills, matched those of the ransom. However, following an extensive search, nothing further was discovered. Some people say that Dan Cooper or his partner had buried the money along with the river to divert the case and investigation. Still, some theories say that Dan Cooper was a trained military commando because the parachute that he took with him was a military parachute, and as compared to simple parachute which he left in the aircraft, this military parachute was not easy to operate. Although the FBI continued to receive tips after 45 years of this case, in 2016 the agency officially closed its investigation, stating that its resources could best be used on other cases.